Good evening. Thank you, Professor, for everything. I really have learned so much about curriculum designing thanks to this wonderful course. And it's reflected in my teaching now and with my students' uh, learning journey. So, what is my area of expertise? More specifically, what particular content area I am the most knowledgeable and why. Um, am I most knowledgeable of this content because it is high areas of interest, or did you or I became an expert based on different experience through my educational career? Well, I think my favorite area of expertise in the education field will be special needs. My daughter is on the spectrum. She is almost 4 years old in a month, actually. And through her, I learned a lot about neurodiversity. And through her diagnosis, I also learned that I am neurodivergent as well. So, understanding who I am and who she is, it really opened doors for me in my education. And my expertise in neurodivergence and neurodivergent learning approaches is that we all learn different and we all have beautiful minds. We all different. So what I learned is basically that we all learn in different styles, in different ways. And teachers like me should be able to provide the students with the opportunity to learn in the ways they understand. As growing up, I had a really hard time understanding certain teachers, especially math, because I have dyscalculia as well. So during that time, I have to teach myself how to learn math content. And the only way to do it is by actually watching videos, is by actually drawing pictures of what was the math problem or whatever, because that was the only way for me to understand. Not with words, not with numbers, it was actually with pictures, because I'm a person that is a visual learner in which I see pictures in my head instead of words. So that's how I learn. So through that, I became an expertise because of my daughter and because I had the opportunity to teach children that need more support in the way I needed when I was little. So now I'm learning about RBT and ABA learning approaches through psychology. I'm also learning about OT and speech therapists that are provided to my daughter too. So that's how I'm learning. And also I'm learning about Reggio Emilia and Montessori learning approaches as well as conscious discipline. So absolutely, I think I became an expert because of my own experience through my personal life, and also because I saw a lot of children during the time that I was doing my bachelor's and I was going to school that were struggling with their education at a very young age, because the teachers didn't know how to help them or how to approach them. They will think that maybe a child that is standing and running all the time around the circle is because they're misbehaving, but in reality, they're trying to self-soothe themselves. So that's how I actually became very passionate about neurodiversity. It's because of my daughter. Considering my studies and experience with curriculum designing, what approach to curriculum do you resonate the most? Well, I always like the first chapter of the UPD because the first thing that caught my attention, and I have it highlighted by the way, is that teachers are designers. We are the ones that design the learning journey for our students, and we are responsible to make that journey as smooth as we can, understanding that not all of them learn the same. So in my classroom, what I do with my class is that every child is taught in a different way, in the way that they can learn happily, in a way that they can be themselves. So we also, as designers of assessment, to diagnose student needs, to guide our teaching, and to enable us, our students, and others, parents and administrators, to determine whether we have achieved our goals. That part of the book really got my attention. Again, because we are the ones that are designing their education. So we should be able to address their needs when we are designing a lesson plan for them. Let's say, for example, a child that, because I teach 3 and 4 year olds, a child that doesn't like to touch paint because maybe the child might have a sensory processing disorder. Maybe what I could do is introduce a toy that the child really likes in order to use it as a medium for him or her to paint with it. And I used that many times, and now that I started with the students when they were 2 years old. Now you see them in pre-K because they are in the same school. You see them painting with their hands. You see them exploring because that processing disorder went away with positive experiences. So the teacher as designer is similarly constrained. We are not free to teach any topic we choose by any means. Rather, we are guided by national, state, district, or institutional standards that identify what students should know and be able to do. These standards provide useful framework to help us to identify teaching and learning priorities and guide our design of curriculum and assessments. Absolutely true, because we need to follow guidelines. Again, that's why I'm here. I'm trying to get my master's in curriculum designing, and my goal is to finally get some education in special needs so I can be able, so I'm able to provide the learning experience, knowing about these laws, these standards for education that are more inclusive. So why the backward designing is best? I took notes of this, and this is part of question 2. The challenge is to focus first on the desired learnings from which appropriate teaching will logically follow. This part stayed a lot with me during my experience of creating curriculums, because I always at the beginning did the activity like I will go and get the materials first, they will put the activity, and then I'll teach it. But now that I'm using the backward designing, I see the purpose of why I'm teaching them that lesson, because I'm seeing first what is the purpose, and that's how the backward designing works. You got to see what is the purpose first of the activity, and then from there you go to the materials of what you need and the actual activity and so forth, and which has really helped me now. The best designs derive backward from the learning south. Too many teachers focus on the teaching and not on the learning. That's absolutely true. And I see that a lot with my coworkers. They think that creating more art for the children, it's going to have them learning. And that's not what I feel. Now we need to focus in teaching and what we're teaching again, and that comes back to what I was saying about the backward designing. Now you need to have a purpose. Why are you teaching this? Why are you teaching a child painting apples? Is because you want them to paint apples, or you want to use the apples as a medium to paint, in order for them to learn that they can paint with different objects that are not only brushes. So it's about thinking about the purpose. Why are we asking students to read this particular novel? In other words, what learnings will we seek from their having to read it? I always wonder about that. What is the, again, we go back to the purpose. What is the purpose of teaching? You're not teaching something because, you're teaching something because you have a purpose. There is a meaning for them to learn about that. So when I was reading about the first chapter, those are the words. And as you can see, I highlighted each one of them that made sense to me. Because again, I'm a person that thinks in pictures. I don't think in words. So every time I took notes about this, I highlight them and then I put pictures in my computer. So basically, I think that I use mostly the backward designing because, again, it really makes sense to me to see what are the purpose of creating certain lessons. And by doing that, I was able to see the results in my students' learning journey. For example, like the lesson plan that I was providing you about the children learning about the talish and how they are able to cast their sins by throwing pieces of bread into a body of water. Yes, I can teach them how to throw pieces of bread in the water, but what is the reason? And the Jewish community does that, during Yom Kippur. So basically, the idea was to teach the children what is a good choice and a poor choice. So I have the children sitting down and I told them basically with pictures, because they mostly learn with pictures, what could be considered a good choice or a great choice and a poor choice. So for example, I have them seeing a picture of a child tossing the toys out. So is that a good choice or a great choice or a poor choice? So they will answer a poor choice. Okay, if you have a poor choice, you get a piece of bread and you throw it in the water. So they will do it. That. So, like I show you many of my pictures in my projects. What was the purpose of that? Is them learning that for everything that they do, there is a consequence. That's true, but also that there are the ones that can choose to be able to think what is a good, what is a great choice, and what is a poor choice. And learning through this, they're able to take good decisions or poor decisions. Imagine that you are the administrator placed in charge of all curriculum development. How would you mobilize your knowledge of curriculum to make a positive change? I think that education plays a very important part in early childhood. And I think that the main issue right now with early childhood teachers, and I include myself, is that the lack of time. It's one, to obtain our education because, we're mothers, we're wives, we have a lot of things going on, as I told you before. But also is that we need more incentives in us obtaining education. Free education, like we have, for example, I'm with a scholarship right now, but still it is time constructed, demanded, other classes demand more time, but also it's given the teachers the opportunity for professional development and incentives such as a raise if they get their masters or get their bachelor's or get their teacher certification, whatever it is. But we need more support and we need more education and more training in order for us to make a difference in the field. And again, that's what I'm trying to do. What improvements need to be made to the ways curriculums implemented currently? I think, again, it comes back to education. I think that part of me in getting my master's, my main goal is to make more inclusive curriculums, not only for my daughter, but for any children, for any child in America, because I believe that the state of Florida has a very amazing inclusive program with Child Find, but there are other states that unfortunately do not have that. And my goal is to help other families and children that need more support. So, with that said, more training, but not training only in early childhood, but training in neurodivergence and learning how we learn in different ways and how to teach different that need more support. But that has to come with training in early childhood professional development. But there's no courses out. Palm Beach State used to offer conscious discipline, but they cut it out of the budget. Why? Don't know. But it was a great early childhood approach, especially for neurodivergent children. It is very sad. What would you do to share your knowledge of curriculum designing with administrators in college and people that work with you? PLC meetings, PDF staff meetings. Well, I have shared my knowledge with my boss, and they liked it. Of course, you cannot change that old CD-ROM in many teachers and administrators. So whatever works with them is gonna keep working with them, unfortunately. But at least they know that I'm doing this and I'm trying to make a change in my room, in my classroom. What challenges might you face attempting to alter the curriculum outlook of your educational setting as it currently stands? Well, I see it right now, mostly with neurodivergent children, even though my school is one of the most inclusive in early childhood right now. Like in Boynton, I have heard many schools that do not allow RBTs and shadows and children that are neurodivergent in their schools because of the shadows. I think it's just the inclusion part that it gets really difficult, especially, even with my co-workers. It's difficult because they don't understand it. I see it every day. When my daughter wakes up, I see it. I see what she struggles with. But nobody sees that. Nobody sees that because they're not dealing with that. So, trying to make curriculums that are more inclusive is the hardest thing, especially with teachers that are not fully trained, teachers that have an old CD-ROM that they teach in a certain way, teachers that are unfortunately not inclusive, and they think that the child is misbehaving because the child is jumping and going around when they're trying to soothe themselves. So my goal again is make a change in these challenges. But everything has to come in professional development, in teachers, staff, educators, directors, school board directors. Everybody has to be involved. Any person, any stakeholder in a school needs to get professional development, because the decisions taken by a school board might be affecting people from the community, and that could be the neurodivergent people. So with this is knowledge. Knowledge is power. And like I always say, my husband always laughs about this. The more you know, the more you see. So that's what we need. We need more people to be able to see more, look more, and understand more what's around our communities. Not only with the neurodivergent community, but with any community. So we become more inclusive, more meaningful, and more prepared as teachers and curriculum designing program, the curriculum designing instructors or so forth. I would like to thank you for the opportunity for participating in this class. I have learned tons, and I'm very grateful that I took your class, because you have helped me to understand a lot of this content, because you make it easier for me, because you understood also, Professor, that I'm a visual learner, and I really enjoy this class because of that. And I hope every professor at FAU is as good as you are and very inclusive. Thank you so much.